All right, let's see if that helps. Still new to all this, so testing setup options. See what works, what doesn't. Oof. Would definitely mulligan that hand. Well, if you're tuning in, feel free to say hey. I open lobbies from time to time on Spelltable, inviting people to come in and ask rules questions that would normally grind a game to a screeching halt for about 25 minutes while they argue. So, usually I get people coming in asking some interesting ones. It's a pretty quiet evening today. So if you're out there viewing on YouTube, feel free to say hey in chat. Just messing around with a deck I haven't played in a while that is, in all of these test hands, giving me one land hands. Maybe it's upset it hadn't been used in a while. Oof. This would be a weird one to keep. Haha.
So,
Hey, how's it going?
pretty good. TS, I think we've talked a couple times.
It's entirely possible.
I just have a quick one because with regards to Muldrotha,
Yep.
and the multi-face dual cards.
Sure.
If one of those is in the graveyard,
Mm-hmm.
what are your options? Can you do either side? Do you
Sure.
do the side
So,
that was played,
so
or
yeah, I got you. So with the double-sided cards like that, and actually any card that has multiple ways that it could be played, so like adventure cards and stuff like that as well, right? Um,
okay,
well, I'm not saying Muldrotha gives you the option to play adventure. I'm just saying this general rule applies to all those things. So if something, if a card like that just exists in your hand, in the graveyard, in the library, it is always considered the face side in those zones, right? So like if you have um something that's like an artifact on the front and a creature on the back, and something says to get a creature from your graveyard into play, you can't grab it because it's an artifact on the front, right?
gotcha.
But if you have permission or instruction to cast or to play, not put into play, but to play something,
Okay,
that permission only cares about what it looks like on the stack or what you're playing. So like for example, if you have something that is a like sorcery on the front side and a land on the back, and you have a um oh my goodness, the name Crucible of Worlds, right? You can
sure.
play lands from your graveyard. You can
Right.
play the backside of that card because you are playing the land. But if something
Okay.
says to just get lands from your graveyard into play, you couldn't get that. So I say all that to say this.
Oh,
With Muldrotha, Muldrotha gives you permission to cast or to play specific types of cards, right? One
right.
permanent type per turn, right? So like one artifact per turn, one enchantment per turn, one land per turn, and so on like that, right?
Okay.
So because you are actually playing, not putting into play, you are playing the card. You may
Okay.
play whichever side you want, as long as it's a permanent
Oh,
type. So, like if it's
okay.
an artifact on the front, sorcery on the back, you can't say, "Oh, well, that's an artifact, so I get to cast the sorcery." Muldrotha said, "I didn't give you permission for that." Right?
Gotcha.
Yeah. I use a similar thing with Kess Dissident Mage and being able to cast adventures from my graveyard,
Right.
even though they're normally creatures.
Exactly.
Same kind of same principle. If whatever's giving you permission to play or to cast, right? So same thing. Like if something says you may, like there's a white enchantment that gives you permission to cast creature spells with power 2 or less from the top of your library, right? It's a very specific thing,
Right.
but that specifically says to cast them from the top, and so it'll check the characteristics as it exists on the stack. Which means if I have a morph creature on the top of my library, even if it's the Crows and Cloud Scraper that's like a 13/13, if I cast it for its morph
Right.
on the stack, it is a 2/2 creature, and I have permission to do that.
Oh. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So it's all about the very specific wording of it. All
Yeah,
right.
so if it says
Um,
cast or play, it cares about what you are actively casting or playing as though you were just playing it from your hand, right? If it says
Sure.
put into play, then it only ever looks at the front side.
Oh, okay. Put
Yep.
into play versus may play, or okay, things like that. All right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. Does that further extend to, because I have it's weird to say, I have the old loot, the original loot, as those cards are getting exiled because it says
Are you talking about the
you may,
mono green loot?
no, the three color one,
Oh, right,
the
right.
teamer one that said exile cards equal to the number of permanent types you have. It says you may play those cards. So if you have a multi-face dual card, you could play the land or the
Oh, loot
sorcery
key
or
to
whatever.
everything. Right, right. Beginning of your upkeep. Let's see. Exile the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of card types among other non-land permanents you control. Right, right. So card types
Mm-hmm.
being card types of permanents being other, not counting loot, any creatures, artifacts, enchantments, not saga, sorry, battles,
Yep.
planeswalkers. Those are your permanent types. So
Correct.
so based on that, you exile X cards, and then it says you may play one of those cards. So play is either playing a land or casting a non-land spell.
Okay.
It's just one word to cover both of those things. So
Gotcha.
it is playing. So if you
So that means you could do either side then, correct?
exactly, and because there's no restriction, it just says you may play that card this turn. Now,
Okay.
if it said you may play creature spells, creature cards from the top, it would have to be a creature on the stack if it said specifically you may play a creature from the top.
Okay.
You know, like
Yeah.
I recently built an oops all permanents deck. All right,
Ooh.
it's got Primal Surge in it. It's the only non-permanent card in the whole deck. Um, I don't know if you know
That's
what that does.
awesome.
Huh? Do you
Yeah,
know
yeah,
what
yeah,
Primal
absolutely.
Surge does?
I think it lets you play the whole thing out because you don't hit a
Basically, yeah,
non-permanent card.
you can either stop when you want to or when you hit a non-permanent card. So if that's my only non-permanent card, here's my deck, here's what's already in play. I hit Primal Surge and I go, I'm gonna leave that much in my library, and then there's my board state. You know,
Oh,
like
nice.
yeah.
That's
But anyway,
incredible.
but the commander that I run that with is Durnan of the Yawning Portal. Durnan says that when he attacks, I exile 4 cards, choose a creature card from among them, and put it into exile. I may play that card for as long as it's in exile. So it has to be a creature for me to exile. But once it's in exile, if there is another way to cast it, I may cast it from exile. So
Oh,
if I exile Kellen, for example, I'm running it with the Sword Coast Sailor background, so I'm in blue and green.
right. Sure.
If I
Okay.
exile Kellen, for example, that is a valid thing to exile. I can play the adventure from exile because all it says is I may play that card. If it said you
Oh.
may play creature cards exiled this way, then I would only be able to play the creature version of the card.
Okay. Okay.
You see the specific wording that it has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's what a clever use of that as well. Because because of the
Well,
adventures, you're able
the
to gain access to sorceries and
to
instances.
non-permanent effects. Yeah, yeah, like
Yeah.
instants and sorceries and stuff. That was kind of out of necessity. It's not built
Oh,
all around
absolutely.
adventures, but there's a few in here that kind of pick up the slack that an instant or sorcery would have normally had. Yeah.
Oh, certainly. That's yeah, very clever, my friend.
That's what. Here's the
Absolutely.
thing. Like a few years back, I did a deep dive into the rules. I went through this whole certification process to be a rules advisor through Judge Academy, and
Cool.
I've been playing since the mid to late '90s. Right.
Oh, that
I
excellent,
thought
man.
I knew the rules of this game. Like I thought I had a really good handle. When I went through that
Right.
certification process, oh man, it opened my eyes to not only so many rules that I was just getting wrong, but like me and my friends were getting wrong, but also to potential options for deck building and play patterns that I hadn't even considered before.
Huh.
And so one of the
Yeah.
reasons I open these lobbies is to help people, first off, to help answer questions of things that would normally grind a game to a screeching halt for like 25 minutes while people argue about it. But
Yeah, we're googling it and we're fighting
oh,
over it, and
oh
yeah.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
That happened with loot. The guy was like, "Well, it's fixed to whatever side it is," and I'm like, "No, I think because this is play, you can do either side." And we
Yeah,
went back and forth, but
yeah,
so you were ultimately right. Your ruling was, yeah, you can
yeah.
do. I can play the land, or I can do the other
But
side, but continue.
the other, no, you're good. But the other thing is, in doing all of that, and figuring out all these, not figuring out all of them, but in opening my eyes to the potential of all these play patterns, it has allowed me to do really dumb things to my friends, and I want to empower other people to do dumb things to their friends.
Well,
You
those are
know?
the kind of plays you always remember. You know what I mean?
Oh
There's
yeah,
they're
yeah.
way more memorable
I,
than your crater hoof swing. You know, it's
my
something that.
favorite example that I give is in one of my mono green decks. This is probably one of the more powerful of the decks that I have. Like it's a finely tuned war crime in many ways, and in my mono green deck, I can clone anything on the battlefield.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Um,
Anything.
and it's just an understanding of how layers work, which is one of the most. Ugh, it's one of
Yeah,
those things.
layers are it's I've
At
watched a couple of YouTube shorts on it. It's very compelling,
my
deep stuff.
my understanding of layers, as I was studying all this, went from full 0% understanding for the longest time to it suddenly clicked like out of
Oh
nowhere.
wow.
It was just,
That must be so
but it
nice.
was like the whole time I was like, this is the dump. Why did they make it so complicated? Why is this so? And then I realized it's this like it's this finely I'm gonna say balanced, but not always balanced tapestry of like effects that they somehow, because over the years you got to think back in the 90s when they made this game, they did not project what this would be in 20 or 30 years.
Oh
All
heck
the
no. No, they had
interactions,
like
all the
auras, and that was
things.
about it. Yeah.
So then they have formats, all these eternal formats like Commander Now, or Modern, or what used to be Extended Format and Legacy, and all these things where there are cards from the 90s interacting from cards from the 2020s here that were never meant to interact with each other. And so they've had to develop these rules and really fine tune them over the years to make them work in a way that they never planned ahead on. So with that,
Mhm.
they have been incredibly effective in doing that, right? But anyway, so here's the dumb interaction, right? So
Yeah.
first piece is Song of the Dryads.
Oh, yep. Know that
Song
one.
of the
Yep.
Dryads, turn the thing into a forest. And what I love about it in this deck is I'll run it with Kadama of the East Tree.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's say I get like a 3 or 4 drop thing into play. Kadama trigger goes on the stack, and I ask anyone, hey, does anybody have a response? And most people just want to wait and see what comes in before they respond, right?
Sure.
So cool. Off the Kadama trigger, I'm going to put the Song of the Dryads into play. This means a couple things. Number one, since this is coming in as a result of a trigger resolving, like it's not being
Oh,
cast,
yeah.
you can't respond to it. Like you can't
Right.
go, oh, I'm going to counter. No, I asked for priority. I gave you,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
also since it's coming directly into play, it is not being cast. It does not target. So your shroud, your hexproof, and your ward mean nothing to me.
what?
Now,
Holy crap.
protection will stop it. If it has protection from green
Sure,
or for
sure.
protection from enchantments, I can't even attach it to begin with. But as far as if I'm just cheating it into play, if an aura is
Yeah.
coming into play and not being cast, it does not target.
Holy crap.
And again, because I'm doing it by this,
Yeah.
you also don't have time to respond to putting it in, right?
Exactly.
Without
Yeah.
knowing, you have time to respond. You have a response opportunity, but you have no idea what's about to come into play.
Oh man.
So you have there's no way of knowing I'm going to turn your commander into a forest or whatever, right? Or a problematic planeswalker or whatever I feel like, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
with that in mind, cool. And I'm not going to go into super detail about how layers work, but Song of the Dryad affects the object in layer 4. If it is not printed on the card, it does not get picked up by a copy effect. Also, oh well, now let me
Oh,
rephrase that. There's two exceptions to that. Mutate modifies a
right.
copyable layer, so that does get picked up by copy effects if it whatever the whole pile is that got mutated. But also,
Oh.
if something is a copy of something else, that copy effect is picked up by another copy effect, right? So like if let's say I have a thing that can only come in as a copy of a creature I control,
Right.
but I managed to make a creature I control a copy of your creature until end of turn, right? I play
Oh.
the thing that can come in as a copy of my creature, and it picks up the copy effect without the duration of till end of turn. So the thing I have come in is just a straight up copy of the thing I made a copy of your thing, right? So
Wow.
is a
Oh, nice.
weird workaround to it, right?
Yeah,
But it
that's
does pick
yeah.
that up. But like let's say for example, you have a creature that has an equipment on it that gives it +2/+2.
Sure.
If I make a copy or somehow copy that creature, my copy does not get +2/+2. That's a
Right.
layer that does not get picked up in the copy effects. Make sense?
Correct. Oh
Okay.
yeah.
So I have put Song of the Dryads on your Planeswalker, for example. I'm going to
Sure.
play land for turn. It's going to be a Vasuva. Vasuva comes into play as a copy of another land. Your
Oh.
object is a land, so it is a viable and legal thing for me to copy. But when I do actually copy it, I don't copy the Song of the Dryads effect. So I just have a straight up copy of your thing now.
Oh my gosh.
And since it entered as a copy, if the object I'm copying has any enter the battlefield triggers, that will trigger for me.
You still get
Oh,
ETBs.
even better. If it has a
What?
replacement effect, like if it comes in, if it says this creature enters with 2/1/1 counters, I still get those. But
Oh my
also,
gosh.
like I said earlier, if I Song of the Dryad your Planeswalker, this will come in with the appropriate loyalty as though I was playing it from my hand. Because that
Oh
coming
man.
in with loyalty counters is a replacement effect, and it picks up that replacement effect as it comes in.
Oh my. So that land, once it untaps, will be the permanent.
Well, it's already
That
the
will.
permanent.
It's already the
It's just
permanent that's
it's
going to
just
be
its
dry
own
out.
effect brings it into play tapped, but it's already the permanent the
So I
moment it
guess we'll have
enters the
to.
battlefield.
Yeah. Oh my god. Ugh.
Now,
What a
the other one that I
plan.
could do is a Thespian stage, which is a land that has an activated
Oh,
ability to
totally.
become a
Yeah.
copy of something else. The only difference is here, since it's already an object in play, I won't get any enter the battlefield triggers or replacement effects that would happen as it enters. So like
Okay.
so
Right.
like
Because
copying a planeswalker this way with Thespian stage, it'll just instantly die for having 0 loyalty.
yeah, it doesn't. Okay. Oh man.
But it still works to copy. Yeah. So in
For
mono
sure.
green, I will copy your stuff. And that's just it's just funny to see like people go, wait,
Yeah,
what?
I'm equally blown away. I have what a clever use of Kodama. I own that card and I always kind of shrugged it off because I'm like, it shows up so late game and I never have anything clever to do with it. That's something clever to do with it.
Oh, to just
That's
cheat enchantments into play?
yeah, that's wow. That is so cool.
Yeah, yeah. There's a few of them. What like Zur the Enchanter,
Oh,
has
yep,
the
yep.
attack trigger. You could do the same thing with that. You can put a aura on somebody else's creature off the Zur trigger, and first off, they don't know what you're getting off the trigger, so they can't fully respond to it with any knowledge. And then
Oh,
also, it's being cheated into play, so it's not targeting. So protection is the only thing that would stop it from being able to be attached. But again,
right.
hexproof, shroud, or ward does not stop it because it does not target.
That would be cool just to get around some of these ward cards now. Oh
Oh
my
yeah.
gosh,
Oh yeah, for sure.
that is incredible.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate so much your help for clarifying that for me, and
Yeah.
it's good to know that I was in that rare instance I was actually right. What you told me is correct. I was able to play either side. All right. Very cool.
So
That
if you
kind of
find
makes
yourself having to explain that again, just remember the difference is the wording of cast or play versus
hmm
put into play.
Ah,
Put
okay.
into play only cares about the front face. Cast or play cares about what it'll look like on the stack, or if it's in the case of a land, what you're playing, what you're actually playing. Yeah.
Right. Excellent. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Diaz.
no problem.
I'm sure I'll see you again with another question at some point.
Feel free. Feel
All
free.
right. Talk to you soon.
All right, man. Take care.
Bye.
Oh, and I'm going to kick to hope it doesn't break the lobby. Yeah, it's still kind of a slow evening, but it's okay. I enjoy having those conversations. Just empowering people to do dumb things to their friends. Oh, let's see. Oh, yeah, that's that one. Okay. I'm hoping we get some more people to hang out and chat and see what's going on, but like I said, it's kind of a slow evening, so. If you're over there on YouTube watching, feel free to say hey in chat, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to help.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going there?
Good. I just am trying to see if this headset works.
I mean, I can hear you just fine. I hope you can hear me well.
I can. It does work. Thank you.
Cool.
All right. See you later.
Oh, okay. That's fine. Did he break the... Yeah, he did. That's alright, though. We'll leave it open for a little bit, see what happens. Oof. This is a slow hand. That's alright, though. Slow hand for a slow evening, waiting for people to jump into the lobby. Just every now and then I'll go on Spelltable or something, open a lobby, seeing if you know, anybody has any rules questions, anything, and usually get more people in by now, but it's fine. Yep, still a little bit of a slow night, just seeing who's out there on Spelltable, wants to jump in, and if they have any rules questions, happy to ask, but happy to answer. Words are hard this evening, but it's a slow night. Not many people coming in. If you're out there on YouTube hanging out and watching, feel free to say hey in chat, and if you have any rules questions or anything, I'm happy to help answer. Oop. And of course, if I wasn't paying attention, I'd shuffled my commander right into the deck. Found it though. We're good. I'm gonna try restarting the spell table lobbies. All right, we'll see if that works. Sometimes I like quiet evenings like this. It lets me go through decks that I don't usually reach for when I play and see if it's something I want to keep together or eventually take apart for pieces for other stuff. Oh, somebody jumping in there. Hey, what's going on?
Yo, yo. What's going on? How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. You just hanging out, or do you have a question about something?
Just hanging out now. Just finished
Yep.
the game, was cleaning up.
No worries. I am streaming, so if you're fine being online, feel free to hang out.
Yeah, completely cool with that.
Cool. Cool. You say you just finished up a game. How'd that go?
First game with Gearson, I got my big bulk of cards and decks and such now. So played first game with Gearson, fantastic. Had tons of fun.
Oh, cool.
Controlled the table. I got really fast start with Fire Diamond and Soul Ring, and I got an early Sigil of Sleep.
Oh, Sigil of Sleep. That's such a it's one of those cards that not many people know about, but then when they find out what it can do, they're like, "Oh my goodness, why am I
Well,
not running this in like
yeah, I was surprised
Nekusar?"
no one knew. I was like, yeah, I mean, I didn't even know. I'm literally reading the cards as I'm drawing them.
Mhm.
And then I
Yeah.
had Unruly Catapult early as well. So
Oof.
every turn it was just 3
Yep.
damage and bouncing, and
Yeah, I tell you,
they ran out of gas pretty quick.
Sigil of Sleep does crazy work in a Nekusar deck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, what's up, Venom? How you doing? Oh, you're muted if you're saying anything.
No, I was not going to interrupt anyone.
Okay. Cool. Venom, you just hanging out, or did you have a question about anything?
Well, I thought I heard a new rule, and I just wanted to see if it did actually change the way I heard it changed.
What's up?
Copying permanents that are face down and double-sided permanents. It now sees that.
Gotcha. Yeah, so the way that works, right? It's not new in the sense of like in the past month, but new like in the past couple years, right? Um so if I am now let me clarify, I'm sorry. Only token copies can have both sides of anything. Only token copies can ever have two sides if you're copying something, right? So, like for example, let's say you have a transforming card, right? Something that has the ability to just transform itself to the other side. Okay. Um, if you have that in play and I play a clone of that creature, like the actual physical card clone, right, that comes into play as a copy of another creature, it will have the transform ability like yours has, but it won't be able to transform because it does not have a backside that exists. Does that make sense?
I thought they changed. That's what I was saying. I thought
Well,
they
no, but I'm
recently
saying
changed it.
just the clone, like the actual clone that I make doesn't have a backside because it does the card doesn't have a backside, right? As far as it, for the purpose of like double-sided cards. Um if I make a token copy, it was it March of the Machines, I think, was the set that they changed this because they did the incubator tokens that actually have two sides. So they just blanketed changed the rules for how tokens work, that tokens can have two sides. So if I make a token copy of your transforming creature, now my token can transform as long as it doesn't like exile and transform, because once it exiles as a token, it just ceases to exist. But my token can have two sides.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, but so it's only tokens that can have two sides. The non-token copies are just a copy of the side that's face up at the time of the copy.
Gotcha. So it only applies to tokens. All right.
Right, because yeah.
No, I missed that whole little thing.
Yeah, it was I believe March of the Machines where they introduced the incubator token, so they had to change the rules cuz you know what the incubator token is, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
1/1 counter artifact flip to creature.
Exactly. Exactly. So they had to change the rules to make those work properly. Yeah. Hey, what's up, Blaze? Are you there?
Yo, what's going
Okay. Yeah.
on?
You just hanging out or do you have a question about something?
No, I actually have a question. I just
Yeah.
I was having this whole conversation with these guys in this game we just had.
Okay.
Are you like a judge or something like you like? Do
I'm a certified rules advisor through Judge Academy. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, here's the question. So, someone cast a. I can't remember the exact name of the card, but it's the one that makes you mill up to 20 CMC.
Oh,
Um,
mill or exile?
Exile, sorry.
Yeah,
Exile.
Tasha's Hideous Laughter. Yeah.
That's it. So, Tasha's, yeah. With Storm stacks, so there was like 6 copies.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Someone casts a Mind Break Trap on all the copies.
On all the copies?
Yeah, on all the copies.
Let me double
So
check.
Mind Break Trap, all the copies. The
Let's
person
see.
who
If an
is-
opponent casts 3 or more spells, okay. Exile. Oh, exile any number of target spells. Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. The person who's casting the Exile spell,
Yeah.
then casts Flare of Duplication, copying Mind Break Trap. And the question was whether or not you still have to keep the original targets or number of targets, or if the copying of Mindbreak Trap can, like, it exiles Mindbreak Traps and its targets so that that spell would resolve. And there was a conversation as to whether or not, like, how that worked.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. So when you're copying a spell on the stack that has any choices to make by default. So let's take out the words "you may choose new targets" for the copy. Okay, so let's just pretend that that part doesn't exist. If you're copying a spell on the stack that has you make choices the moment you cast it, right? So like if it says choose a mode, right? Like a farewell or something, right?
Yeah.
You don't get to choose a different mode, right? You are stuck
Okay.
with those choices. Now, for the purpose of anything that says target, right? Those targets. So if you're copying it and it doesn't say you may choose new targets, right? You're stuck with the exact same number and the exact same targets that the original did. Now, Flare of Duplication and similar things that say you may choose new targets for the copy, great.
Yeah.
You can select new targets, but the number of targets must remain the same.
Okay. So they would need to target.
They could change the targets to the Mind Break
can't-
Trap and yeah.
But is it because you can't change all those targets to one thing though, right?
No.
Or can
no.
you?
No.
So the flare would only effectively counter the original copy. So then you'd have to. So one would get through, and the rest are still
So here's an option
counted,
that they
right?
here's an option that they could do. Let's pretend for a second that there are 5 copies of the original spell, right? So
Yeah.
1 plus 4 copies from Storm. I know that probably wasn't the case, but I'm just throwing a number out there. Let's say 5. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Mindbreak Trap says they target all 5 of those spells, right? So
Yeah.
Mindbreak Trap is on the stack, targeting the 5 spells.
Yeah.
Flare of Duplication enters the stack. Now, it's going to target Mindbreak Trap. Now,
Yeah.
let's say Flare of Duplication starts to resolve. Here's the cool thing that they could do to at least mitigate what's about to happen, right? Flare of Duplication remains on the stack. Like, spells in general remain on the stack until they have completed everything they're going to do. Okay?
Mhm.
So what happens? Oh, no, wait. Nope, I apologize. I'm thinking of changing the targets, not copying a spell. Never mind, forget I said that. No, I was my mind went to changing targets, not copying a spell and choosing new targets. The whole thing of like you can deflecting swat a counter spell to counter the deflecting swat type
To
thing.
counter deflecting sword.
But
Yeah,
then I
yeah,
realized by the time you would actually be putting the copies of Mindbreak Track on the stack as far as choosing the targets, Flare is off the stack. So yeah.
yeah.
But so anyway, yeah. So all that would be left to is the original Mindbreak Trap and the 5 Tasha's Hideous Laughters. So they could target the Mindbreak Trap and 4 of the Hideous Laughters. Yeah.
Yeah. So the end result would be that 5 of the 6 would go through, effectively, right?
One.
Oh, sorry. One would go through. Sorry.
Yeah,
The
there you
opposite
go.
of what I
There
said.
you go.
Yeah,
One
opposite
would go
of what I said.
through.
Yeah.
Now,
One would go
if
through because the original Mindbreak, the copy
Yeah.
of the Mindbreak goes onto the
Yeah.
original Mindbreak, but the rest of those targets remain the same
Yeah.
because you can't change.
Now, if they
those.
wanted to be really tricky about it, they could, before doing the Flare of Duplication, if they understood how it worked, if they had the mana, they could put like a few quick cantrips on the stack. Like just a few
Yeah.
little like 1-cost
Yeah,
cantrips that
yeah.
say draw a card or do whatever, and then copy the Mindbreak Trap, targeting the cantrips that don't matter, so that they can still get some of those Tasha's Hideous Laughters through.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if they built the stack high enough, they could
Right.
then change targets to those
Because they
new
have
targets.
new available targets. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, interesting. Yeah, it was it was like we're all just like, what the? He's like, I'm asking a judge. I don't know. Like...
Right.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
All right, man. Appreciate that much.
Yeah, no worries.
Appreciated.
Glad to help.
Have a good one.
You
Peace.
too. Oh, someone's trying to get in. All right, well, somebody broke the lobby, so we are going to reset the lobby again. So. Ugh, it's late. I'm allowed to get a little mixed up. We got there in the end, though. But yeah, it's a bit of a slow night tonight. Just kind of hanging out. Opened up a Spelltable lobby to give people an opportunity to come in and ask rules questions. Usually more people hopping in than would have hopped in tonight, but it's fine. It's fine. If you are out there on YouTube hanging out, feel free to say hey in chat. If you have any Magic rules questions yourself, throw it down in the chat, and we'll see if we can hammer that out for you. I like helping people. There's some nuances in this game that just, oof. They say reading the card explains the card. That is not always the case at all. Like, not at all. um, there's some nuances that can really kind of get to you. You know, if some players shortcut some things that usually don't matter, but sometimes they really do. So hopefully all the audio is coming through properly. Still new to the streaming. Yep. Just double checked. YouTube tells me that people are watching, but it doesn't tell me who is watching. Wish it was so I could say hey. That's fine though. Let's see. Yeah, still a slow evening. Feel free to say hey out there in chat. Just hanging out. If you have rules questions or anything about Magic the Gathering, feel free to ask. What you're seeing on stream is just an open lobby in Spelltable that people usually join in on to ask questions, but it's oddly slow this evening. So yeah, what's going on out there in chat? Anybody feel free to say hey. I see the numbers changing, people jumping in, jumping out. Feel free to let me know how you're doing today. Kind of a slow evening today. nobody new yet. Still waiting, still hanging out. That's all right. All right, see, we got people popping in and out. Just have a open lobby for people to jump in over on Spelltable to come hang out, and if they have rules questions. Usually, it's an oddly slow evening today, so I usually get more people coming in. It's not usually this quiet. If you're out there watching the stream, feel free to say hey in chat. Um, if you have any questions about, you know, the magic of yeah, if I can talk this evening about the the rules of Magic the Gathering, which can be a little bit layered, a little nuanced. You know, I've been playing in general since the mid to late '90s, and I, I thought I knew a lot about the rules of how to play. Then I did a deep dive into the actual comprehensive rules, and I was wrong. I was wrong. Thought I knew. Nope, there's a lot that I can absolutely forgive people for not knowing just off the top of their head. Even if you're just hanging out for a minute, feel free to check out the channel. I'm a little behind on where I'd like to be in it, but I'm working on videos about the general rules of the game. Right now, most of the videos are just about the actual, like, how to play, right? Like, what are the steps of the turn? What are the actual steps of casting a spell? Putting things on the stack, how the stack resolves. Eventually, I'll get into kind of more complex, more nuanced situations that can come up. But I want to get that foundation out there first. It's nothing too crazy. It's just kind of a low-key instructional video. Nothing loud and bright and yelling at the screen or anything. I like to keep the information a little more digestible. I mean, I see plenty of other content creators out there, you know, doing their thing that's definitely very entertaining, and a lot of it is containing absolutely correct information. But I don't know. Sometimes you just want to relax a little more. Oh. Thought somebody had jumped in for like a second. Maybe not. Yep, just long enough to break the lobby. Awesome. We'll keep it open though. It's okay. It's not full, so I don't feel like closing it and remaking it right now. If it starts to get full and it feels like people aren't able to get in, then I'll remake the lobby. But in the meantime, just hanging out. Again, if you're just stopping in, I am kind of keeping this open for people to ask rules questions in chat, or if they jump in Spelltable and see this lobby, you can jump in and voice chat in there. I am a certified rules advisor back when Judge Academy was a thing. Let's see. Ooh, somebody's jumping in. Well, as my chair proceeds to fall out on me. Hey, what's going on? How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing good. Just kind of Hanging out for a bit. You just hanging out, or do you have a question about something?
I got a question.
All right.
Ooh,
Hopefully, I have an
another
answer for
rules.
you.
Uh,
Hey, what's up, Chug? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. All right. What are you showing me there? A little bit of a glare. Sorry.
all right, this is Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm playing a landfall deck with Simone Mystery Unraveler, and I'm trying to understand how this works. So there is a card called Eudora, which brings, if a creature dies,
Mhm.
it gets brought back face down.
Yep.
And Simone would flip the creature back up. So would Uro keep sacrificing itself when that happens?
Gotcha. So we're looking at a couple things that are happening here, right? So we're assuming because the first time Zamone's landfall trigger resolves, you manifest dread. So
Right.
let's assume that we're past the first resolution of that landfall trigger. So every land that enters in your turn after this is not going to manifest dread. It's going to ask you to if you want to flip something face up, right?
Right.
Okay. When something enters the battlefield face down, that's manifested, morphed, disguised, or cloaked, it enters the battlefield as a 2/2 creature with no abilities, no real characteristics other than the fact that it is a creature and it's a 2/2. That's it.
Mhm.
No color, no creature type, no abilities, no nothing, right? So that means that anything that enters the battlefield face down, if it has a trigger that cares about it entering the battlefield, it
Mhm.
won't enter with that ability because it's face down, right?
Right.
So if Uro enters face down, it does not get its own enter the battlefield triggers.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So it
So
just comes
now
back and it's okay.
now it enters. Now the reason I say all that is it enters face down because of Eudora as a land, not a creature, right? It wasn't manifested or anything like that. It enters as a land, which means Zamone sees a land enter. And if this is not the first time that her landfall trigger resolves, you may turn a face down permanent face up. It doesn't have to be a manifested creature, even though her first ability says to manifest something face down as a creature. It
Okay.
just says to turn a permanent you control face up, a face down permanent face up. So that land, that quote land that just came into play face down as a forest, is a viable target from its own landfall trigger to be turned face up.
Okay. I
So
get
you may turn Uro face up that way and not have to worry about any of its enter the battlefield triggers that would cause it to be sacrificed or anything like that. Now, and then if it dies, Eudora does the same thing again. It sees this creature, if it dies as a creature, rather. Eudora sees it die as a creature and says, hey, come on back as a forest.
Okay.
And so it re enters as a forest and triggers the landfall. So
I also have a
Eudora
follow-up.
combos that you'll see with Zamone usually involve some kind of a sack outlet because they'll come in as a forest, flip themselves off of Zamone's landfall trigger if it's not the first time it resolved. They have a sack outlet, usually like a Sakura Tribe Elder or something is the most common one to be used as an example. You'll sack it to go get a land, and then it'll bring itself back because of Eudora, or Eudora brings it back rather. Now it's face down. Oh, look, landfall. Let me turn something face up. I'm going to choose this face down Sakura Tribe Elder, quote, forest, And look, turn it. And then they just loop that over and over. But the point is, if it came in face down, it does not see its own abilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Follow-up question.
Yeah.
I've seen the Eudora plus Sakura Tribe Elder.
Mhm.
I saw it on EDH Rec, and one of the steps in the combo, they say you can like tap the land before you flip it.
Yeah.
So can you order it like that? Like you can like tap lands at
So
I guess
the
instant speed or
So
Okay.
yeah. So a tapping a land for mana is what's referred to as a mana ability, meaning it's something you can activate anytime you have priority. Right? So you still have to
Okay.
have priority. You can't do it just randomly while somebody else has priority. But the point is, it entered as a forest. Zamone puts a landfall trigger on the stack that says, hey, turn this thing face up if you want, right? The trigger goes on the stack. With that trigger on the stack, you can go, well, hey, I have this forest. I'm going to go ahead and tap it while it's a forest for green mana. Then I'm going to float
Gotcha.
that green mana, use the Zamone trigger to turn this forest, quote, face up. Oh, look, it's Sakura Tribe Elder. I'm going to sack Sakura Tribe Elder, go get a land, Eudora is going to bring it back as a face down forest. And while it's a face down forest, I'm going to tap it for mana. And then that's what they loop, and they generate more and more mana because of that. Now, the reason that works is because, obviously you're familiar with the concept of summoning sickness, right? Like how it applies to creatures. Here's the thing you got to understand. Everything that you have not controlled continuously since the start of your turn technically has summoning sickness. It's just that it only ever affects creatures. So what that means is like there's lands that you can activate to become a creature until end of turn.
I actually
right?
have one of those right here, Shifting
Yeah.
Woodlands. I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, if it comes into play, right, and then you activate its ability to say this is a creature, now the summoning sickness that it had now matters. You can't attack with it. You can't tap it to activate its own ability or anything, right? It's now stuck because it has summoning sickness. If you didn't activate the ability to make it a creature, even though it technically has summoning sickness, it doesn't matter. You can tap it for mana as a land.
Okay.
But the moment it
Gotcha.
becomes a creature, the summoning sickness it has matters. So that's why the Eudora combo works, is while they're face down lands, they are not creatures. So you may tap, even though they're creatures on the front face, that doesn't matter. They're face down lands, you can tap face down forest, you can tap them for mana, then do the loop and float that mana. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
That's cool. So I'm guessing that means with Shifting Woodlands, if I play Shifting Woodland that turn and I manifest or I turned it into permanent, it cannot attack. But if it's the second turn and then I choose, like, I don't know, Craterhoof Behemoth that has haste, something that doesn't have haste, Uro,
Right.
it can attack that turn, like the second turn that it's
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, as long as you have continuously controlled it since the start of your most recent turn, it does not have summoning sickness, even if it changes characteristics. So becoming a creature doesn't give it summoning sickness that it didn't already have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Cool. Thank you very much for your help.
Yeah, no
That's,
problem. No
Those are
problem.
my questions. I thought I figured something out with like Uro, and I was like, oh, maybe I can sacrifice it infinitely. But seeing you say that, I realized I cannot. I did not find anything.
Oh, you're talking about having it come in face down and have it sacrificed to its own ability or something?
Yeah, because it says like
Yeah.
draw a card and gain 3 life, and I would be like, that would be so broken.
Right. But having it come in face down bypasses all of its enter the battlefield abilities. Yeah.
I got it.
Yep.
Cool. Thank you very much.
All right. Glad to help.
Have a good night.
All right, take care.
You too, Chugga. Bye bye.
You too. All right, I got a rules question for you.
Okay. Now, is this something that you're trying to get confirmation on, or you're just testing me again?
We'll see.
Okay. What you got, man?
Take a look.
Oh, okay. Hang on. Word of command. All right, hang on. Let me. Hey, what's up, Bio?
Yeah, what's up?
What's up? All right, let me bring up the oracle. I feel like I'm gonna need the oracle text on this.
You're gonna need a lot of research in this one.
Okay.
Not as bad as camouflage, but it's up there.
Oh man. All right, let's see. Look at target's opponent hand and choose a card from it. You control that player until word of command finishes resolving. Okay. The player plays that card if able. While doing so, that player can activate mana abilities only if they're from lands that player controls, and only if mana they produce is spent to activate other mana abilities of lands that player controls and or play that card. So basically you can't just tap them out for no reason. You can only spend their mana from lands to do. Okay, I got you. Okay. If the chosen card is cast as a spell, you control the player while that spell is resolving. Okay.
Okay, so there's many factors to this I'd like to address.
Sure.
Using their lands, and as well as using abilities of lands they control to activate mana abilities of lands they control to pay for it.
Right.
Because some mana abilities...
So like Urborg and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you got it. Like Cabal Coffers.
Yeah.
You can do that. The one thing, also, what else was there? Reading here, activate ability, so resolving player. Okay, that player plays that card if able. This does not get around timing restrictions. I can't force them to play a creature during an instant this way, because the way word of command is worded, it's on a stack I can't force them to play something that does not have flash or not an instant. It has to be an instant. It has to have a flash. Is that true? Or is that if able only apply to targeting?
Gotcha. Let's see. While doing so, the player can activate man. Okay. Player controls and to play that card. If the chosen card casts a spell, you control the player. Okay. All right. So there's a difference between timing permissions and timing restrictions in the sense of what could happen here. So if a spell or ability is giving you either instruction or permission to cast a spell, that and it does not give a duration, like you may play it until end of turn, right? If it's saying while this is resolving, cast that spell. That spell is cast without regard for timing permissions. So, like,
Okay.
because it's during the resolution of this spell, you could cast a creature, even though technically you couldn't cast a creature while this is on the stack. This is giving you instruction to cast that spell right now, or you don't cast it at all. And that's actually not even like if you can cast it, it must be cast right now. Like you said, if that top card, let's say, had a target and there's no legal target, it may not be cast, so you can't just force them to cast an illegal spell. If it's something that says it can only be cast during combat and you're in their main phase, it can't be cast. So I think that's what's referring to when it says if able, meaning if there is no specific restriction preventing you from casting the spell. But if it's just a matter of does it normally have permission because of what phase or step we're in, or because of the stack, yeah, go ahead and do it now. That's what it's
Yep.
telling you to do.
I figured that was true. The next one I got a question about is the little lines that say while this is resolving, you control that player, and while that
Mhm.
spell is resolving, you control that player.
Correct.
I'll talk about that last. I want to talk about a trick you can do with word of command, because the way word of command is worded, it's still resolving when you first cast it, and then when it finishes, before it even finishes, you put another spell on a stack, making word of command a legal target. So technically, during someone's turn, I can target them, force them to play a counter spell to target word of command.
So you're saying if the card that they have in their hand, right, you're choosing card as a counter spell,
Yeah,
you can have them waste their counter spell on word of command. Yeah,
that's
because
correct.
word of command is a viable target, so it is something that you can cast, so you have to cast it. And there is a viable target on the stack, being word of command.
Right. So it's still on a stack when their spell is entering the stack, so it's a valid
Right.
target. Gotcha.
Now
Okay.
of course, as that counter spell goes to resolve, word of command has left the stack and counter spell just fizzles with no target. But
Mhm.
when it was put on the stack, when it was cast as part of resolving word of command, there was a viable target. So you could cast it at that time. Yes.
Okay, cool. This line here, you control that player until this spell resolves, and you
Mhm.
control that player while that spell resolves.
Right.
I'm controlling a player during resolution of this and that spell. Sure,
Yep.
okay. What does that mean, and why is that different from, like, let's say, Mindslaver? What is that different from, like, Opposition Agent, which says I can control them for their decisions specifically?
So I think the application of the way this is worded is also like, let's say they have two counter spells in their hand, right? Or you're or like, let's say they have a removal spell and a counter spell, and through word of command you use one of their removal spells to target their own thing. Because you control them during that resolution, they can't use that counter spell to stop you from removing their thing, right? Like it will. You can, or if you want to make them waste a counter spell, you can say you could put the removal on the stack, use their counter spell while that's resolving, to now counter the removal, just to make them waste an extra card. But that's I think that's the application of what that is. Now, as far as the difference, it's just that because like opposition agent it doesn't cause anything to be cast specifically, so there's no need to control them while that other thing is resolving,
I
right?
just want to know what it means by I control them. I
So
understand, like, with like, okay, let's look at Opposition Agent for a second, okay?
mhm,
So, Oppo Agent. Sorry, I can't spell today.
it's all right. Words can be hard
It-
sometimes.
it
It's been getting
specifically
me all
says,
day.
while the opponent is searching their library, they exile each card they find. Okay, it says you control your opponents while they're searching libraries.
Hmm.
So during the action of searching a library, you control them. So
Right.
this says during the action of casting this spell, or this spell has already been cast, its chosen targets have been done. Let's say I do cast Word of Command, right? It's still resolving. And then I choose a spell in their hand, it's still resolving. Oh, wait, I think I know what it means now. Okay, I know what it means now. Because it says while it's resolving and not while it's on the stack, I'm not controlling them during the entire interaction. I'm just controlling them while the spell's resolving, which means I choose their targets and I make their decisions of that spell.
Correct. But they can cast anything else in their hand at instant speed if they have anything at instant speed. So, for example, let's say they had you cast Word of Command, and then you target a counter spell, and then they had a Teferi's Protection in hand. They could cast a Teferi's Protection. That way, you can't touch them for the rest until their next turn. So essentially, that you only control that particular spell. You don't control them in a sense of for the turn.
Who the fuck is this guy? No, it's fine. It's fine. I get it now. No, I was
Yeah.
reading it as while this is on the stack, you control them. But
Yeah, and
no,
I think at a
it's while
glance,
it's
I
resolving,
started with the same thought process there. Yeah.
yeah. So I'll tell you what happened with this. I played this card perfectly. Okay, I was gonna win in a weird way. This deck I have is really weird. It's really rulesy. Okay, and on their draw step, I let them draw. Then I responded before the main phase. I casted Word of Command and targeted them, and they read it and they said, "I don't get it." I explained it, and they said, "Oh, I see. Okay, I'm gonna counter your spell." And we had a bit of a counter war, right?
Sure.
Back and forth. I won the counter war. It resolves, and all I needed to do to win was flicker his creature, right? And that was it. And what happened was I casted Felidar Guardian instead of Cloud Shift. Cloud Shift would have just targeted his creature, it flickered it, no problem. I wanted to waste his mana for some reason, so I casted Felidar Guardian, but I can't choose ETB targets because it's already past
You
the resolution.
casted his Felidar Guardian.
I did, yes.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And because the ETB is not part of the casting target, it's on ETB he chooses, I lost responsibility of controlling him anymore, and therefore he got to choose the target through Flicker, and I lost because of it. And I knew that as soon as I cast it, I'm like, I just fucked up. He said, why? And I said, because I should have chose Cloud Shift. I'll explain why. And I humbly conceded, but I felt like I won in the end anyways, because I resolved a Word of Command. It was awesome. And and that's how I did it. I have another rules question.
Go for it.
Piracy.
Piracy?
Yeah. Let me show you the card.
Okay, piracy. Where's it at?
I'll also put these cards in my command name up here.
No, it's fine. I've got it. This turn, you may tap lands you don't control to help pay for your spells. Okay. Let me bring up the oracle text of that to make sure.
Is there one that says that you can tap lands to pay for abilities? Because that'd be really good in this deck.
Right. All right. Until end of turn, you may tap lands you don't control for mana. Spend this mana only to cast spells. Okay.
Right.
All right. So what's up?
This is an angle shooter card, okay?
Mm-hmm.
To me, it says pay 2 blue, all your opponents tap their mana, you move the second main phase, and now
they lose
silence.
that mana, right?
Yeah, so it's like a 2 blue silence. I love this card. The way I played it the other day is I was in 4th seat. I casted this, and I said, everyone read this card very carefully, okay? I said, okay, there's priority involved here. You can't use your lands unless you have priority. And the only person who is playing blue is seat 3. So if you guys want to politic and see if he has counterspells, now's your chance. You're first player. I said, do you want to tap your mana now and keep it for yourself? Or do you want to like bet that he's going to counter it?
Right.
And he kept his lands. And he kept his lands. And he didn't have a counterspell. So I got to use their mana before they could.
Yeah.
That's how it works? Okay.
Yeah, because you could, even though it's a mana ability that you tapping lands for mana is a mana ability that doesn't use the stack, you still have to have priority to do it. So
Right,
if you
because I'm
if you
after
put this on
player,
the
I'm
stack
first to
and then you
put stuff
pass
on stack.
priority going around and nobody takes an action, everybody just passes their priority. When it comes back to you, the spell just resolves now. Even you don't even have priority while this is resolving. Like you don't even get priority back once everybody passed it, right? Like you're
Yeah,
just casting the spell now. So as
right.
part of it resolving, you're tapping all your opponent's lands. Yeah, and you're spending that mana only on spells.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if my angle shooting is sound in that way, where I'm like, once we all pass priority and he's not countering it, I am first to who can do actions, and my actions are going to be tapping your stuff for mana.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm allowed to do that. Okay. Otherwise, the card doesn't make sense, right? But I mean,
Yeah.
Okay. In my name up here, you can see here, my commander is John Irenicus.
Yep.
You know him?
Oh yeah.
Are you aware of his interaction with merchant ship?
Let me double check merchant ships text. I want to say I've seen it, but I'm trying to remember what merchant ship. Merchant. Yeah. Why was I about to misspell merchant?
I know that interaction.
Oh, I'm sure. Let me.
Did I get you with it? Is that why?
No, I've had people like tell me about it.
All right, merchant ship can't attack unless defending player controls an island. Whenever merchant ship attacks and isn't blocked, you gain 2 life. When you control no islands, sacrifice merchant ship. Okay, so you're going to use John Irenicus to give it to somebody who doesn't have islands.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or I'll strip mine their only island. That works too.
Sure. In some way, you're going to give them this. John Irenicus says it can't be sacrificed. So what happens is its trigger condition is met by because its controller controls no islands. The trigger goes on the stack, telling them to sacrifice merchant ship. Now, when that trigger goes on the stack, even though the triggering condition is met, the trigger doesn't go on the stack again while it's on the stack, right? Like so, it's just going to trigger once at a time. So then it goes to resolve if nobody interacts with it or does anything weird. It goes to resolve. It says, "Hey, sacrifice me." And John Irenicus' ability that gave that player merchant ship says, "You can't." Oh, okay. Well, we just resolve the effect with nothing happening. Oh, look, they have no islands. That's a trigger. That's the triggering condition has been met. Trigger goes on the stack. Yeah, and so if nobody has interaction, the game just ends in a draw.
So my only question is,
effectively.
Yeah, so I'm aware of like the no double trigger rule where it goes on a stack, it's by itself, priority's passed on, and let's say somebody tries to remove it, right?
Yeah.
What's going to happen is it's going to do state-based actions again, and it's going to try and sacrifice itself again if it can't. Therefore, we're stuck again.
No, as long as the original trigger is on the stack, that trigger cannot go on the stack again from the board state type thing. Yeah.
Okay. See, I thought that the trigger would go on a stack again for each chance of state-based actions being checked.
No. It's not that it like here. There's a difference between a trigger that is because of something that happened, and if that thing happens again, a new instance of that trigger goes on the stack, even if the original's on the stack. But this is not a trigger because something happened. It's just a trigger because the board state looks a certain way. And it's always, and as long as it looks that way, that trigger, if this is the case, that trigger would just continuously go on the stack a million times or infinite times, right? But as long as the original trigger is on the stack, that trigger from just the board state being a certain way, or like a life total being something, or like just a specific thing, right? Just something existing in a certain status. That trigger doesn't go on the stack again while it's already on the stack one time. Now, the moment it leaves the stack, if the circumstances are the same, it tries to go on the stack again.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay. So as long as the original trigger's on a stack, people can interact with it, and it's not going to try and stack itself again.
Correct.
Cool. Okay. See, I was under the impression that no priority was given, and it just keeps entering the stack, checking every time someone tries to interact with it. You know.
Gotcha. No.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yep. That was all my questions. This deck is a turbo Necro Dominance deck. It's CEDH, and it does Doomsday really efficiently. That's all it does. It's just bullshittery.
Right.
and
got you.
then it has a big reset button built in with the merchant ship.
Yeah. Yeah, I run John Arenicus in the 99 of one of my decks, but I haven't tried running him as a commander before.
Yeah, I'm still working on it. He's not bad. I mean, I guess he's okay. If you play him as his intention, he's pretty terrible.
Right.
Even with Homeward Path, like giving someone a Polywog, or giving someone like copying their creature a flesh duplicate because it can't stack to vanishing,
Uh-huh.
and then like giving it to somebody and then taking it back is like interesting, but there's not much you can do with it otherwise. Like, I'm actually going to take Homeward Path out because it's like terrible in the deck.
Yeah.
Like giving somebody a creature of like John Renicus and then kite sail larcening that creature so they can't even sack it as a treasure. It's kind of funny.
Right.
Does,
Right.
Does that work?
Yeah. Yeah, because the
Because
it's
this is for
not
the
it's not an
abilities, right?
ability. Now, like if John Arenicus said, give target player this creature, da 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 da, and it gains, and then in quote says this creature can't be sacrificed, that would give it a specific ability. So then something like Kite Sail making it lose abilities would make it lose this creature can't be sacrificed if it was given as an ability. John Arenicus doesn't give it as an ability, like in quotes. It just says that can't be sacrificed.
No, it does.
And-
It says, and
It
this
says
gains
it-
in quotes, this creature can't be sacrificed.
Oh, it does? I'm sorry. Reading the card explains the card. No, yeah. Then if it gives it in quotes, that is an ability given to that creature. So if it loses abilities, it can now be sacrificed.
Oh, okay. Okay. Then
Yeah.
this is a Nombo, and
Yeah.
I gotta make a fix. It's interesting. I'm actually getting rid of a couple cards here to make it a little more efficient, but okay. Well, that was it. I'm gonna pop out so you can ask other people questions.
Yeah, no worries. Good to see you again.
Yeah.
TS, you want to do something fun I did with this deck?
What's up, Bio? How you been? Which deck is this? The
This is my 10-minute deck. I
This
made
your-
some adjustments.
okay,
I beat a Winota deck with this deck.
nice. Okay.
But I may have pissed some people off with chains so far. A couple people so
Oh,
far.
change them Mephistopheles.
I pissed them off because
Yeah.
one of them was playing Xyrus.
Oh, okay.
I went against the Xyrus deck. I went against the cycling deck, and I'm just like, oh, this is beautiful.
I mean,
but
with
some-
Xyrus, with Chains of Mephistopheles, as long as you had a card in your hand to discard and then draw a card, you still drew a card.
Right. But the Xyrus deck I didn't really play chains on that one. I more
Oh, okay.
played I had chains out and I had like Ifner out. So if I discard a card, everything gets -1/-1.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so I had and then I had also like Tortured Existence, where I would discard like a noxious, or I would bring that noxious school, and I had my Hashaton out, so I'd like make copies
Right.
of noxious school. So I nuked the board, kept over and over nuking the board.
Right.
And they were just like, "All right, fuck
Hey,
you,
what's
you
up,
gotta-
Llama? How you doing?
You gotta
Hey,
die."
how you doing, TS?
Doing
We
good,
talked
man. You just...
before. I love to see where we got the same.
Oh
deck.
yeah, yeah. Cool. What's up? You just hanging out, or do you have a question about something?
I actually did have a question. It was like a random ADHD thought I had the other day, and I wanted to know how it all broke down.
Yeah. What's up?
So, okay, pre-game effects.
Okay. Like
I-
you're talking like ley lines and stuff like that.
Leyline, gemstone, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I do know that they use the stack in terms of like player priority and stuff like that. So someone in second seat would.
I mean,
technically have
not the stack if you're being technical, but it does go in turn order as to declaring your pregame effects. Yes.
Okay. So let's just say hypothetically, if I have a gemstone and a ley line, how does that work? Do both of those objects enter at the same time?
Gotcha. Let me double check something. Hang on, because I don't do too much with, I haven't answered too many questions regarding that. But let's double check.
It literally popped into my head as like a weird hypothetical. I've
Sure,
never
sure.
seen it come up, but it was.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Let me look at my ley line real quick.
What's that?
I said I have my ley line in my. Let me pull it up. If you,
Bro, I played
begin
that
with
in Eureka for a hot minute, and that's what made me think of that.
You should see this. Click my view deck list, the deck list on under my name, and just take a look at it, gander at it. You'll be amazed at what this deck does.
Now okay, that's pretty fucking cool. I like this. I was looking at building Hashiton as maybe a CEDH deck.
Oh, I broke Hashton within this deck.
Yeah. No, I like that. Ooh. Okay, that's dope.
Okay, all right. So real quick, I'm sorry. Just while I'm fresh looking at it, I was checking the comprehensive rules, section 103 regarding starting the game.
Okay.
So 103.6 basically says some cards allow a player to take actions with them from their opening hand. Once the mulligan process is complete, the starting player may take any such actions in any order. Then each player in turn order does the same. So
okay.
you do your pregame actions that way after the mulligans, but like if you have multiple, like let's say you've got 4 ley lines in your hand, they don't just all enter at the same time. You say, all right, this ley line comes in, this ley line comes in, this ley line, and so on like that. Now, most of the time that doesn't matter, right? Like it's not like what order they come in really matters.
Right. 99.9%
but there's going to be some weird corner case where it does. Yeah. So you, as the player in turn order who is resolving your pre-game actions, right? You're after mulligans have been taken care of, and now we're resolving these things that say at the start of the game you may have start with this in play or whatever. You're taking those actions right now in whatever order you want. Then the next player in turn order does the same, and so on.
Okay. So follow-up question to that.
Yeah.
So you have your pre-game actions.
Okay.
Now look, this hasn't been a thing since Flash Hulk or anything like that. There are
right.
those super weird hypotheticals where you can win on turn
zero. Yeah.
So, can you respond to putting those other pre-game actions into play? I would assume not.
No, and here's the thing: the whole Flash Hulk turn 0 thing, that wasn't actually turn 0. What it was you were doing it in the upkeep of the first player's turn before they could even get a land into play or something like that. So that's
okay. So technically, the first time anyone would get true priority would be in the upkeep before the first player.
The upkeep during the first player's turn. Yes.
Got it.
Which means even with pregame actions, like if a trigger, I don't know that there's anything that would happen on a pregame action that would cause a trigger, but like if a trigger would go on the stack, nothing gets to go on the stack until the upkeep.
Until the pregame actions have resolved.
Yeah, but the thing is, in order for a stack to resolve, players have to get priority. So the triggering event can happen if there ever is some pregame action that says you may start with this in play when this enters, do a thing, right? That trigger happened whenever it came into play, but triggers are not allowed to go onto the stack until a step in which players would get priority to be able to resolve those triggers.
Okay,
right?
I get
So it
like
wouldn't even go on the stack until the upkeep.
Right. So like if you had a ley line that said if this is in your opening hand, add 2 mana.
Most of the time it'll say at the beginning of your first main phase of the game, add 2 mana. You know.
Right. Yeah. Or I guess for make a treasure token would be the best thing. Like the best example. But yeah, I get what you're saying. So that wouldn't resolve until.
Yeah, they'd probably be careful to word it so that it didn't make that weird thing.
Yeah. It was just a super weird thought that I had.
Sure, one of those what if things that'll probably never happen, but if it does, you want to be able to not argue about it for 25 minutes. Gotcha. Yeah.
Literally, because it was like, okay, if I have a gemstone and a fucking ley line of anticipation in my hand.
Sure.
Are there things I could do?
Right. I see what you're saying.
What? Like I guess the thing would be like, where it would matter would be like if you had like multiple ley lines, like one of which being the flash enabler, and you could theoretically win because you could respond to your leyline triggers.
Right.
Like you could leyline of anticipation, have gemstone using the stack in Cheerios.
Sure. But again, the first opportunity you would ever have to do that is the upkeep of the first player's turn.
Oh yeah. I'm saying like that was the hypothetical that came to mind.
Sure. Yeah, there's some weird things we could think up in as far as the whole what ifs and all that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like one of the weirdest ones that like stopped my first CEDH tournament was what happens to like the phases when a player leaves the game. Which on the surface,
if it's during that player's turn.
Yeah.
The game still goes through all the correct phases, and each of their other remaining players have to pass priority to go through them properly.
Right, but it was just one of those weird things. Like that's what first got me into like those super cool like rulings and shit like that.
Yeah, that can come up sometimes. Like it's even in casual games that can come up. Actually, especially in casual games. Like I was at a I had a guy. Bio's heard me tell a lot of stories. Whatever, he's heard this before. I had a guy in a Spelltable game one time. Like when the game ended, I mean, he gave me the business. He yelled at me for whatever, called me a scummy player and all these things. Now his reasoning, his logic behind why I was a quote scummy player was because I used rules he didn't know. Like that was his logic, right? I used rules he didn't, and this wasn't even like me abusing weird corner case things that he would have no reason to ever know.
It was you angle shooting.
Yeah, exactly. So what had happened was, so I'm in the player 4 spot, he's in the player 3 spot, and he is a problem player. Like he has got a board state that is doing just dirty things, and he is the threat at the table. I'm playing. I'm not going to call it a group hug deck because I don't build like indiscriminate group hug, but I was playing a modified version of Bumbleflower, which I don't hand out free stuff. Like you will benefit when I say you benefit, kind of stuff, But I was taking actions in player 2's turn. I had a flash enabler, and I was doing stuff that was going to make player 3's turn very difficult because it needed to be difficult. I was not going to give him just free reign to do all the things he was doing. So I'm doing flash speed stuff at instant speed things during player 2's turn. We hear a noise in the background, and player 2 had to step away. Like, hey guys, let me check on that real quick. Sure, no problem. We see him put his headset down. He steps away. Less than 2 minutes later, he comes back, picks up his headset, like, hey guys, so sorry, emergency with my kid, I gotta run. We're like, no, my dude, go take care of your kid. Absolutely, right? So he leaves. Player 3 very aggressively just immediately was like, oh, his turn's over. You gotta stop doing what you're doing. I was like, well, no, hang on for a second, buddy. Like, even though he he didn't end his turn, even though he left the game still goes through all the proper steps and phases. We have to pass priority to move to the next step or phase. It just automatically moves to the next one once the stack is empty and everyone's passed priority. So anyway, and the other player that was remaining backed me up on it.
Yeah.
And then so he fussed and fumed about that, but eventually relented, and I did my thing. And then during his turn, I'm not going to get into the whole story of it, but I did a funky little combat trick that stopped him from doing something he wanted to do, and then I ended up winning on my turn. But he just he wasn't happy. He's like,
wasn't this just a Eureka player?
Not Eureka. No, this was what's his name? The one that cares about you sacrificing stuff to make him bigger, and it was a Rakdos commander. You sacrifice stuff, he gets bigger, and then when he dies, you deal damage equal to his power.
Oh God, why am I blanking on this?
But you know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah,
No. So what he had done, I guess we're gonna say it's so he had swung at me with his commander on his turn after I did the thing where I was like, I'm gonna do stuff during this other turn, He swung at me with his commander, which at the time was like a 10-10. And I was either going to block it with my creatures were big enough to block and kill it for them, any of them that I was willing to block with, right? And
Jury, Master of the
Jury, that was it, yeah. Now I did have the one creature that was enabling all the flash speed shenanigans, and that was smaller than his commander. So I wasn't going to block with that, obviously. I could block and kill it with any of my other creatures, but then he would get the death trigger and probably point it at my flash enabler, which objectively would have been the correct thing to do. Absolutely the correct thing to do, because that was a problem for him. I get that. Or I just take 10 commander damage, which I didn't want to do. Right?
Yeah.
Well, he didn't know what was in my hand. I did. So he swung at me with this 10-10 commander. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to block with this 11-15. I'll kill it. Sure. He's like, awesome. Perfect. Like he starts giggling a little bit, like he tricked me, He's like, great. So with the death trigger, I'm gonna point it at the thing that's giving you the flash speed stuff. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Since we're still in combat, I'm gonna play Mandate of Peace and end combat.
Yep.
And he's like, well, wait, no, my trigger still gets. And he's thinking of like, if an ability goes on the stack and you remove the source of the ability on the stacks is independent. And I get where he was coming from.
An ability.
But, well, it was a triggered ability, but the point is, Mandate of Peace ends combat and just removes...
Right, it ends the phase. I get what you're saying, yeah.
It just removes it from the stack, so it doesn't get to resolve. But he's thinking about, like, if he activated an ability and I destroyed the source of the ability, the activated ability is still in the stack and gets to do its thing. Sure, in that situation, he would have been right, but it was this whole thing, he's arguing about why he still gets to resolve the thing, and, again, the other player backed me up on it. Of like, no, he's right, that's how it goes. And so, anyway, I ended up winning on my turn, and he just gave me the business about the whole situation, how I was a scummy player because I used rules he didn't know. Like, okay.
Dude, I mean, the arguments I get in the most are over Jericho being able to ninjutsu outside of the normal windows.
So, like, in end of combat, even though you've already passed damage or something?
Right, end of combat. Oh, someone, in response to attack, yeah. So, you declare attackers, they get priority. They then cast a removal spell. Well, that creature's tapped and attacking. You can ninjutsu.
You cannot. You can't do it.
I'm sorry. It's after blockers because it has to.
Right. So they didn't declare blockers, and then before damage, they're trying to. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, it's been a long day, but
no, you're good.
You get my point. Not in the windows they would normally expect it to happen when you can ninjutsu, or like when you can, in no blocker scenario, ninjutsu one thing back to your hand, ninjutsu another thing back in.
Mm-hmm.
Like Sakashima students, the big one where that happens a lot.
Yeah.
Then the other card, for some reason that I get it's really simple in terms of how the card plays out, is Moria Marauder in my Rionia deck.
What does that do, Moria Marauder?
Oh my. Card's honestly correct. Surprised it does.
No, I'm sure I've seen. I just by name, I'm trying to remember what it does.
It is a 2-mana 1/1 with double strike. Whenever a goblin or orc deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn.
Oh yeah. When a goblin or orc you control deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. Okay. And it has double strike, so you're going to potentially get 2 triggers off of that if it gets through. Gotcha.
Yeah, but with Rionia, you make copies of it, so it goes exponential. Don't know why people get really upset about that really fast.
Spell Rionia? I'm trying to remember.
Rionya. She makes copies equal to 1 plus the number of instant or sorceries you cast this turn.
Right. So, like, if you have 3 copies of Moria Marauder out and you hit somebody with 1 goblin, you get 3 triggers of exile the top card you may play at this turn.
No, you would have 4, because if you make 3 copies, you have 4 Moria Marauders.
Well, as I was saying, if you have 3 total, I'm sorry, I said 3 copies, but yeah, if you have 3 total.
But they also all have haste and double strike, so it gets stupid.
Yep.
Okay, but I put this up because I actually had a rules question.
Yeah, go for it.
So I do know there are certain corner cases that essentially, I'm trying to think of the best way to word it. So let's just say I go to my end step.
Okay.
And would normally go to end the turn.
Okay.
Well, I guess the cleanest answer would be like Gitrog, where you go to. No, Gitrog isn't quite it. I know there are certain circumstances in Magic where you go to the end of a phase, and there are certain actions a player can take to put you essentially back into the main phase.
Well, and let me clarify the terminology. This may help with your question. It's not that they put you back into that step or phase. It's that if what happens is, let's say for example, the example I give is I'm in my first main phase, right? And
Okay.
I'm saying, hey, I'm ready to go to combat, right? And the thing is, I have a beginning of combat trigger that you don't like. I've got an unnatural growth, and you don't even want that trigger to go onto the stack at all, right? And if we go to combat, that trigger will go onto the stack. So if you wait till I go to combat, it's too late, right, to remove it.
Okay.
So I say, well, I'm in first main, and I go, cool, I'm ready to go to combat. You go, well, actually, before we go to combat, I'm going to Cross and Grip that unnatural growth, right? So this is what happened, though. Every time, every time the active player proposes moving to the next step or phase, we don't automatically move to that step or phase. It's just a proposal. It's asking permission from the rest of the players. Can we go to that step or phase? And just like anything else on the stack, everyone has to pass priority on that proposal to move. If anybody takes an action, we don't move. So we resolve whatever got put on the stack, whatever spell or ability or whatever, and then we just never move to that step or phase. I go, oh well, I'm still in my main phase. Cool. I'm gonna play this thing that returns the unnatural growth back to play. Now I'd like to move to combat again. And somebody else
Okay.
goes, you see what I'm saying? So it's not that we went to that step or phase and then reversed it and came back. I just
Right.
asked
Yeah.
permission. I just asked permission to go, and somebody by taking an action goes, nope, I'm not ready to go to that step or phase yet. Oh, okay, well, we'll stay in here and resolve your thing. And then once we're done with that, we're still in the current step or phase. We just
Yeah.
never moved. Yeah. Does that kind of
Yeah.
answer the question you were
No,
headed
that
towards?
100. So anytime a player says, "Hey," but even if, yeah, I get what you're saying. So if I say I want to go to my end step and they say, "Hey, before your end step, I want to do X, Y, and Z,"
Mm-hmm.
I then go back to my second main.
Again,
Once
you're
that
not going
resolves.
back. You just never left your second main phase. If they
Yeah.
specifically say, before you go to your end step, I'm doing this thing, then
Yeah.
they're saying I'm doing this in your second main phase, and I'm not allowing you to just go to end step. So
Yeah.
because that interrupted the proposal of going to end step, we're just still in second main. So once we resolve it, the stack is empty, you have priority, and you can either do second main phase things, or you can propose moving to the end step again.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So that's why where you interact. Let's say you're the person that wants to interact, right? Being very specific about where you're interacting is so important. So
Yep.
like the combat thing, right? So like if you have a beginning of combat trigger that I don't want you to get, I will be very clear to say, well, before you go to combat, I want to do this thing, right? So I'm going to remove that thing. If you have an attack trigger that I don't want you to get, I will
You want
let
to
you
do
go to
that
combat.
in combat.
I'll let you go to combat. I want you to be in the beginning of combat where you cannot be in first main and do sorcery speed things, right? So in the beginning of combat, I'm going to path to exile that creature, even if you have the ability to cast it with like mana and it has haste and stuff. We're in the beginning of combat. You cannot recast it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. No. I 100% understand
Yeah.
what you're saying.
So that's why it's so important to be specific, especially in those specific types of things where if you're doing something in response to somebody moving to a step or phase, be very clear about where you are taking that action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, because also like it also makes sense like in terms of how you can use that also to your advantage. Like if you know you have an impactful trigger that someone wants to respond to, you can just pass through your phase, let them respond to it, and re-get priority with more information.
Yeah. I remember I was one time at my LGS, I was playing my Goshentai deck, and I forget it was one of my shrines that was going to have the ability to deal a chunk of damage on my, on my end step, and one of the other players was like, okay, wait, when can I? Because he knows about that I know a lot about the rules and stuff, so he's asking me, okay, I want to remove that thing. When can I do it that I don't take the damage? I'm like, well, if you wait until the end step, the trigger goes on the stack. So removing it after the trigger goes on the stack doesn't stop the trigger. It's the analogy of guy throws a grenade. While the grenade's in the air, you shoot him in the face. The grenade's still coming,
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay, wait. So what if I do it in second main? I was like, well, if you do it in response to me wanting to move to my end step, you can do it in the second main, but I will still be in the second main, and I have an ability in play that allows me to return that thing back to play. So I can just do that and then move to end step again. And he's like, oh,
Right.
so I just can't stop it. I'm like, not with a single removal, no. And I was fair with him about it. I was trying to help him understand so he didn't waste stuff, but
Yeah.
yeah. Oh my goodness. Is that still your nonsense over there, Bio? I see Sakashima.
Yes. Yeah.
That's not like a new deck, right? Oh, okay.
No. I may have put in Hullbreaker Horror.
You may have put in more.
How do I link? So, like, when it says view deck list.
Okay. Are you using Moxfield? Are you using
So-
Moxfield?
Yeah, I use Moxfield.
So
Okay.
if you go to where you would enter your commander here on Spelltable,
Okay.
right? Like right by your name where it says click to add commander, right?
Oh, if I do that, it'll link to my account.
Well, if you
Well, no.
if you click on that and then
There's
like
a-
you see on the right of the box that pops up where it says edit deck list. Do you see that?
Yeah.
That's where you,
I can
and
like
then-
copy paste in there.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Oh, TS, you want to know a funny way I won a game
What'd you do?
with this deck? So I didn't do a traditional win. I did a funny win. I won with a tortured existence on the battlefield.
Yep.
Hashaton. Mondrak, not Mondrak. I had 2 token copies of Mondrak on the battlefield. So I created 8 tokens total.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had Sakashima was on the battlefield because of the legend. I discarded Sakashima, whatever. And so Sakashima was in my graveyard. And I essentially cloned it twice, whatever. And then I had Scarab God in my hand. So on the player, I was a player 3 in order, and so I had enough. I was holding enough mana, and I played my turn out like this. I was like, okay, all these are zombies. I had like 2 things that I had. This was zombie. These were zombies, and I was like, all right, cool. I'm not gonna do anything, and everyone else was like, all right. And then player 2 was like, all right, I'm gonna go to end step. I was like, cool, on your end step. I had 1 more black mana. I'm gonna play that black mana. I'm gonna discard a Scarab God to bring back Sakashima 1,000 Faces. And they're like, okay, cool. I'm gonna pay the 3 to blue to make a copy of it. Oh wait, it's gonna be 2 token copies, but then it's gonna be 4 token copies of Scarab God that are all zombies.
Oh my god.
And then
Now-
I went untap, and I had another creature in hand, and then I did a Sakashima. And I was like, target Scarab God.
Now, just so you know, if you're using that ability to make token copies of the thing you just discarded, right?
Yeah, correct.
So the whole thing of it being a 4/4 zombie is part of the token creation effect, right? The actual thing that's creating the token.
Right.
Okay. So that's effectively, it may as well be what's printed on the card if it was a physical card for the purpose of like layers, right?
Right.
And then as it enters, because it is Sakashima, as it enters, you may have it enter as a copy of another creature you control, right?
Correct.
Whatever it's entering as fully overwrites that whole token creation of it's a zombie with power toughness 4/4 and all that.
Oh,
It just becomes a straight up copy of the thing that you want to copy.
oh, interesting. Okay, so
So it's not
the-
inherently a zombie anymore unless the thing you're copying is a zombie.
okay.
It's not inherently a 4/4
So-
anymore unless the thing you're copying is a 4/4.
Okay, so like, so these would just be regular Mondrax.
Yep.
Okay. Anywho, so I did this, and I brought in 4 Scarab Gods, and then
Yep.
I brought in another 4 Scarab Gods. So essentially, I did another 4 Scarab Gods on my before the essentially all the Scarab God triggers were on the stack,
Right.
but they resolved, so they check how many zombies you control.
Yep.
So I was like, cool. I'm gonna keep on smacking, making token copies of Scarab God, making token copies of not token copies of Scarab God, like Hashton.
Right.
So it checked how many zombies. So I was like, cool. I'm gonna make like I don't know, a couple of zombies here, and I was like, cool. All the Scarab God triggers on a stack. And they're like, yeah. I was like, kill you guys all.
Yeah.
And they're like, wait, what? I was like, yeah. They're like, hold the fuck up. But no, that's quite funny. No, I'm still fine tuning this deck. Like, there's always cards that I find that's like, all right, can I make this work?
Right.
So I will say, if you like a deck that plays on that axis, if you want a commander that's like niche and doesn't see a lot of play, dude, when they did the command zone rules change, Balthor the Defiled is disgusting.
What colors though?
Mono black.
The hell does he do again?
So Balthor the Defiled is he is 4 mana to cast, 3 mana to activate.
This guy, yeah.
Alpha define remove all from the game. Each player returns all black and all red creature cards from his or her graveyard. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you something now. This will not work on a deck like this.
No. I'm not saying in a deck like that. I'm saying if you like decks like that, he is a very fun commander to build around.
Oh no! So this is a token go wide, beat your face with other combat trick with some tricks up my sleeve. So like I run Astral Dragon, make a bunch of copies of my Field of the Dead that see the Field of the Dead, see each other entering the battlefield. Cool, make 1,000,000 zombies. Have at it. I had O'Hare on the battlefield, and I had Liliana's The Last Hope's emblem. I was able to pop it. No one took care of it. And I was able to, I was like, cool, I'm going to ult Liliana. And this is against the Winota player. And he's like, all right, cool, you won't have any blockers. I was like, go ahead, do what you want to do. I wasn't going to say anything. I was like, do what you're going to do. And he's like, all right, I'm going to do this. I was like, cool, I'm just going to block enough damage to where you won't get any triggers. Or you won't get any, you won't get damage through. It's like, I'm just going to block proportionally with zombies. And he's like, all right. I was like, or it was my end. It was like, cool. On my end step, I'm gonna make X zombies. He's like, wait a minute, what? Because it was originally 2. It's X plus 2, but since I had O'Hare, it's actually gonna be 6 zombies because of the triple effect. So he's like, wait, you just made how many blockers? I was like, well, enough to block your board. Yeah. Enough to block your board. And he's like, motherfucker. So it ended up being like I cyclotic rift his board, and then with knowledge of power out and the fucking my commander out, I was like, cool. I'm going to make all my zombie creatures like plus 120 plus 120 with lifelink because of Whip of Erebos. So, and there's about 100 of them going at you. So he's just like, yeah, I am dead.
Not just dead, super dead. Like that's
Yeah. Like overkill dead.
Yeah.
But I did it. I was like, but the funny thing is like, I was like, here's the thing. I could kill you now, but I'm gonna do a funny thing, and I gave him the win because I played Linda, Lich Queen. I played whatever.
Yeah.
What's actually the actual card name? But I played Lich Queen. I was like, cool. I'm gonna deck myself out. Because I had Ageless Insight out. I had Ageless Teferi's Ageless Insight. And I was like, cool. I'm gonna deck myself. He's like, how? I was like, I'm gonna discard so like all these triggers on attack. I will draw these cards and then I'll discard only half of them. And then I'll draw another. I will draw because of Kindred Discovery.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So it's so like this like going through this deck list is so wild, but that's why I have chains in the deck, is so I can just individually discard cards so I never deck myself. But I'm still tweaking this deck.
I mean, like, dude, I play Teferi's, like, one of my main decks is, like, Rafine.
Right. Actually ran Rafine in the deck, and I was like, the issue with Rafine though is if I have chains out, I have to discard. Essentially, I'll discard my hand, and then I will. Because you draw that many, and then you discard that many.
Right.
So that's the issue with like the Rafine, any of these like connive triggers. That's why I don't run any connive triggers anymore. But the most disgusting card in this deck is actually a cycling card for 2 mana. Grempalm Polluter.
Oh, Gempalm Polluter. Yeah.
Yeah. So cycle this for 2 black, and then have target player lose, 5 life. Cool. I'm gonna bring it back for 1 mana, cycle it again, 1 mana, cycle it again, and just KO someone.
Well, I mean, how I built my Rafine deck is I do have a few big reanimation targets, but most of my deck is all about just I'm gonna pitch high value like 2/3 drops and hit them with Unearth.
Right.
Opposition Agent feels good as fuck for 1 mana. And no one's gonna counter it because they're just like, well, I don't want it to be Razaketh.
No, it's better than it's really better in that scenario, because with this deck, and this is why I feel like Hashathon's gonna be so broken. It's gonna be so broken, especially with like Eldrazi's. I'm gonna discard this, make a 4/4 Eldrazi Titan, as well as shuffle my graveyard. But if I'm correct with this TS, if I'm wrong, correct me.
Will do.
if this dies, it hits graveyard, I shuffle my graveyard to my library.
No.
Because it's put, right?
What's that?
Because it says when it's put into a graveyard.
Right, so here's the thing about that. That's not a dies trigger. A trigger that says when it is put into the graveyard from anywhere
talks about the card itself.
Well, no, what that means is it triggers from inside the graveyard. Like the moment it is in the graveyard, it triggers, right? Like it's put there. The token is not put into the like it goes to the graveyard and immediately ceases to exist before anything would ever see that trigger go onto the stack, right?
It's why tokens don't trigger Descend.
Well, because Descend specifically says cards anyway.
Yeah, it says cards.
Right, but it same concept is what I'm getting at. like the Eldrazi trigger looks for
Well, that's
the
kind of lame.
card
That's
being
whatever.
in the graveyard.
Yeah. But that's also why, let's say for some reason, let's say you have a manifested, one of those shuffle titans, right? It's manifested face down. If it dies to a board wipe, it still gets to get its trigger because it is in the graveyard face up.
Right.
And the trigger goes on the stack because it's not a dies trigger. Anything face down manifested with a dies trigger doesn't get its dies trigger if it dies, that as a manifested face down. But because it enters it, the moment it touches the graveyard, it is face up. The moment it changes zones, right? So in the graveyard, it is seen with its when this is put into the graveyard from anywhere ability. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Well, that's not as fun as I thought it would be, but whatever.
But I mean,
Yeah, whatever.
honestly,
it's a token. It's a 4/4 token with Annihilator 4.
I mean, still, yeah.
Yeah, the big test with this commander is how many discard outlets can you reasonably play in the deck?
In this deck, I have. So I run Temet as the face commander. I run Temet as.
I'm not saying that to be hyperbolic. I've done a fuck ton of research into the commander. I'm saying is, what is going to determine whether or not it's going to be a tier 1 deck that stands the test of time is how many discard outlets can you play in the deck and make the deck still function like an Esper mid-range deck. And that's all it comes down to. Yeah. If you can play a reasonable amount of them, deck's going to be one of the best decks in the fucking format.
There's another card that.
Well, hey guys, I'm gonna cut this short because I'm gonna have to get going. So I'm gonna end up closing this lobby. Llama, it's been good talking to you.
Good talks, man.
I know Bio's already in my Discord. Llama, if you're interested in joining the Discord to keep that conversation going with Bio, you're welcome to. If you want to, and then I'll send you, if you want to send me an invite on Discord, not invite but a message, I'll send you an invite to the server if you're interested.
All right, I'm down for that.
Yeah. So it's this is not the channel name. This is my, like, you send me a message to this username.
Yeah.
This is all one word, lowercase, Tiger Storm with a Y, TYGERSTORM. You send me a message, I'll send you an invite to the Discord.
Sent it over.
All right, cool. Yep. All right, man. But like I said, I'm gonna call it a night. And I will catch you later.